Hello everyone, welcome to the LFC Foundation. Just while we're waiting for everybody else to arrive, if you could just do me a favour and just turn your camera off and make sure that you're on mute. And then when you do get the opportunity to ask questions, just make sure that you're using appropriate language. And also, just while we're waiting for everybody else to arrive, if you could change your name just to your first name, your display name just to your first name, that will make our life a lot easier in the foundation as well. So we've got a couple of minutes yet while we wait for everybody else to arrive. So if you want to grab yourself a brew or a drink and get comfortable, we'll start very, very soon. Right, it's probably time that we start, to be honest. We're a couple of minutes past 11. So welcome everybody, welcome to this LFC Foundation Careers Uncovered event. Just before we do start, can we just ask everybody to make sure that your camera is turned off, that you're on mute, and then if you do ask a question later on, can you make sure that you're using appropriate language? And could we also ask you just to change your display name on Zoom just to your first name, please? That will make our life a lot easier as a team. Okay, so for those people who don't know me, my name is Gary. I'm an employability coordinator, and it's my absolute privilege and pleasure to be hosting this event today. And when I say privilege and pleasure, we've got three amazing guests, like fantastic guests today. So I'm really, really excited by this one. It's probably time to introduce the team that I'll be working with as well today. So my colleagues from the employability team are here. So we've got James, got Jane and Rob on the call, and they'll be asking questions throughout the event today. I think this is the sixth one that we've done, 8 events that we're going to do, and they're completely free to access. We're also running a series of workshops. So we've got one tomorrow, and that's exclusive for anybody on this call today, but we'll give you a little bit more information about that later on in the call. For those people who've been on the calls before, you know we've given a real honest and open and unique insight behind the scenes to Liverpool Football Club and various businesses, something that it's just not available anywhere else. Today's event is focused on the external world of sport. You're going to get a real unique insight into the pathway of leading experts, which will hopefully inspire you and help you on your own personal career journey. So how it will work is the first part of the call will be our guest speakers, giving an overview of their current job and the pathways to that job. The second part will be myself and the employability team, who I've just mentioned, asking questions. And then the third part is your opportunity to get involved and ask questions yourself. If there's anything you want to ask, any questions about their career or any advice that they may give, please feel free to put that into the chat box. And nobody will see your question apart from people from the employability team. So as I said, we've got three amazing guests today. We've been so lucky to get this opportunity to have these people speaking today. So I'll introduce the first person. So the first person is Zuleikha Chikh, and she is the president of the University of Central Lancashire's Student Union. She's also the chair of its trustees board. In 2019, she won recognition for her contribution to sport, which saw her featured in the on the Muslim Women in Sport Power list. If that wasn't enough to keep her busy, in her spare time, she supports the FA's Asian Women in Sport Advisory Group and she's got a master's degree in sports business management. So welcome and thank you for being here today. Our next guest is Chris Kirtland, and if you're a Liverpool fan, he needs absolutely no introduction at all. He's a goalkeeper who's represented England for both the under-21s and the first team. He started his professional playing career for Coventry City before moving to Liverpool in 2001. A no-nonsense hard-working professional who spent many years with the Reds before moving to Wigan Athletic in 2006. He retired from football in 2016 after spells with Preston North End and Leicester City, and he continues to support the work of Liverpool and is one of the ambassadors of the LSC Foundation. So it's very good to have you here today, Chris. Our third and final guest we're very lucky to have. It's Shaun Wane, who is the head coach of England Rugby League, and is currently preparing his side for the Rugby League World Cup, which is taking place later this year. Shaun is a former professional Rugby League player himself, who played for Wigan when they absolutely dominated the Rugby League landscape. But despite his success, he's probably more well known now for his career as one of the most successful Rugby League coaches in the world. He coached Wigan between 2012 and 18, winning every single major trophy, including 3 Super League titles and being crowned world champions in 2017. So a big, massive welcome to Shaun Wane and all our guests. So going back to the beginning, we'll start with you, Zuleikha. If you just want to talk us through your sort of career path and your journey, and I know you've ended up where you are.
Thank you, Gary. Thanks to Rob and James for allowing me to kind of share my journey today, and thanks to Liverpool Foundation for the opportunity. So yeah, I'm just going to kind of go through a little bit about my background and how I've kind of like basically achieved my current position and where I've kind of come from. So I did A-levels at college in physical education, French and sociology. And at the same time, I was kind of volunteering in the local community. But at that time, it was nothing to do with sport. So my passion is, sport. So I started volunteering in a local charity called Sue Ryder. And at that time, I was just kind of working on the shop, tagging items, pricing items, chatting to customers, and developing a kind of like communication skills and kind of organisation skills in that way in terms of managing my workload at college whilst I was also volunteering. And then just around the corner, there was a trampolining club, and I'm very sporty, and I started, I was already competing regionally, trampoline and gymnastics, won a couple of gold medals, etc. And I wanted to kind of have a look at what sporting opportunities there were in my local community to kind of volunteer and give back to my local community in that way. So I started volunteering with the trampolining club, delivering a few sessions, running after school clubs, birthday parties and that kind of thing, all on a voluntary basis. And after a couple of weeks, they said, would you like some paid hours? And I said, that'd be brilliant. A bit of money, a little bit of a part-time job while I was still, at college. So I stayed on with them for 3 years, and they funded my level 1 qualification in trampoline and gymnastics. Really enjoyed my time there. And it was kind of different for me because I'm half Indian, and a lot of my cousins went on to study different degrees after college, and they went into the kind of finance and the medical routes, and I'm passionate about sports, so I decided to actually do something a little bit different, and it wasn't the kind of norm in our culture to kind of go and study sports because it's kind of seen there's not many jobs out there, and what will you really do with that degree, but I was really passionate about it, and I continue to kind of pursue it. So I came to the University of Central Lancashire, which is in Preston, and I've stayed there for 4 years, and I completed a master's degree and an undergrad in sport business management. At the time while I was at UCLAN, there was so much opportunity, when you're not studying, to do other things alongside your degree. So I was able to meet new people and try new things, and get involved in a wide variety of different activities. And obviously when I was at college, you're very much focused on your A-levels, and you don't really get a chance to have a think about anything else that you want to really get involved in. And there wasn't much opportunity, but at the university I found there was so much opportunity to meet new people, meet students, and I kind of developed more more cultural awareness of different cultures, different languages, and I signed up to a number of different sport clubs. So I thought, rather than just going to the straight football, you know, I'm kind of football mad. I thought, why not? I'm at university, you're only here for 3-4 years. Let's try something different. So I did sign up to the badminton team. I did sign up to table tennis and the basketball team. I thought, why not? I've got time on my hands. So I did that, and I managed to build some really great connections, and really like try to have a look at what else was out there. So through the student union, I was able to take up a role called a sports activator, and that enabled me to try and encourage other people who will probably not kind of choose sport to start getting involved in sport, building their confidence. And I started kind of undertaking my coaching badges. So I wasn't predominantly on a sport coaching degree, but I thought it's great to kind of develop your skill set, develop all those kind of transferable skills that are required in the workplace, such as communication, planning, that kind of problem solving kind of element. And then through the student union, there was a number of other kind of opportunities, such as being a course rep, a school president, and kind of being able to represent the views of people on my course. And I started turning into more of the opportunity to get involved in activism. And then that's when I started to go into high schools, a predominantly Muslim girls' high school in Preston, and started delivering sessions in the community and kind of having that kind of role model effect to encourage young people to actually see a sport, actually see a career in sport, and actually see someone that looks like them as well. So when I got to my master's degree, I kind of saw an opportunity to transform a turn up and play session into an actual club with the British Universities and Colleges of Sport. So that's when I became the founder and chair of the university's futsal club, the women's futsal club, and it's trying to take it a step further. So allowing young girls to have an opportunity to compete against other unis. And because I was able to use those connections I made with the Islamic Society at the university, I was able to engage Muslim girls that with our university, we don't have many Muslim boys and girls that get involved in extracurricular activities, especially sport teams. So being able to build those connections, you know, in those 3 years with the society and actually show them that actually you can get involved in this, and that it's a non-judgmental environment. And actually I grew that club, and now up to 11 different nationalities, and it became the most diverse club at the university. And then my kind of key passion really was to start supporting underrepresented communities, giving them a chance to thrive. And then I started pursuing opportunities with the British Red Cross, who support refugees and asylum seekers to integrate in the local community. And my kind of passion for sport, I started signposting them to local sporting opportunities in the community, to get involved in free coaching sessions every Friday. And I kind of involved in that area around cooking meals with the British Red Cross. And it was all about, for me, building those connections, making sure that I was able to really understand their journey, being culturally aware. And actually, a couple of months later, those students actually came to those young people from the community, those refugees. They actually came to the university to study a foundation degree, and I think those, you know, a good link there with, you know, creating those partnerships, letting people know what opportunities there are in the community, and actually seeing their journey, their career progress. And then kind of widely throughout outside of the uni, that's where obviously Gary alluded to earlier around getting involved in sports organisations with books, the FA on the Asian Women Football Steering Group and the Youth Sport Trust and Kick It Out. So those kind of connections I've been able to build I'm still friends with those people today, and a number of opportunities there. And then my current role now, I ran in the elections in February. I'm quite introverted, so this was a great opportunity to kind of come out of my shell a little bit, and use my passion for supporting people, and I channel that into that confidence. And then, yeah, I was successful for this election. So this is my first year in the role, and I basically represent the views of 28,000 students at the university to ensure they have the best possible academic and student experience. So I'm going to leave it there. That's everything up to my journey, and I'll hand over.
That honestly, that is absolutely fascinating, and really what an impressive CV as well. I think what I found really impressive is you've talked a lot about your formal education, doing your A-levels and going on to university, But then you talked a lot about that you went out and did volunteering, and a lot of your opportunities came from that volunteering. So you got your funded role and all the stuff that you've done, and you've done it for real good reasons as well, in terms of enabling cultural change and society change, and that's really, really inspirational. But the question I've sort of got for you now is, how do you balance your time between volunteering and maybe formal studies? Because I know a lot of people have an anxiety around study timetables and stuff. So how do you keep that commitment?
So I was quite fortunate to live quite close to campus. So I was only like kind of commuting 15 minutes on a bus there and back. So I was able to kind of still keep engaged in kind of the activities that were going on in the student union, but also kind of just it's kind of understanding what are your values, why are you doing what you're doing and where do you want to go? And for me, it was about selecting the most appropriate opportunities and ones that align with your values. So maybe taking on a couple of things, 2 or 3 things, and trying to do them really well, and really building those connections. But I think you have to kind of understand and maybe map out where's your free time currently, and what are you doing in that free time, and is it productive?
I completely understand. It's like I say, it's inspiring that you're managing to sort of balance that, when I know a lot of people do struggle with that. And I also noted at the very end that you said you're introverted and you put yourself out there, and you went for that election process where you had to do public speaking. And have you got any advice for anybody who may be in the same sort of, they feel that they're introverted or they're lacking confidence to do that? Have you got any advice for those people?
Yeah, I'd say it's about practicing, and my kind of confidence and the kind of the boosting confidence that I now have, I think it's come from actually getting involved in volunteering, to be honest. I think that's been a big part of my life, and the people that you meet along the way, the conversations that you have, you don't realize the skills that you actually are developing that are very much transferable to the role I'm currently in. And I'd say try and take opportunities when they come, and don't say no to them. But I guess just take the right opportunity, but make sure that if you are introverted like me, well, I was introverted, just try and you've got it's a mindset change. It's very psychological, and I think you have to try to surprise yourself sometimes. You'll be surprised when you actually kind of break those kind of boundaries, and you kind of challenge yourself, and you think, actually, once you've done one public speaking, you'll do another one, and you'll do another one, and that's how your confidence will build up.
Definitely. Do you know something? It's been really lovely speaking to you, and thank you so much for sharing your journey. And I probably just want to add, if I was at university now, I would absolutely want to be represented by somebody like you. You're an absolute inspiration. So thank you very much for spending your time with us this morning. Thank you. So we'll move on now, and we'll move on to Chris. Welcome, Chris.
Hello, you okay?
Yeah, you?
I'm good, yeah. Delighted to be part of this, obviously, with the foundation. So thanks for having us on and for asking us.
And thank you for joining us. So very similar, just if you could talk us through your sort of background and your career and how you've ended up where you are today.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was always obsessed with sport. Got to apologise to Shaun, but rugby wasn't one of them. I played one game of rugby and got smashed, and I thought, nah, I'm not doing that again. So, but yeah, growing up as a young lad, football, tennis, golf, cricket, everything. I was just obsessed with sport. Not too much at school. I must admit, I wasn't the best at school. I wasn't rude or anything or anything like that, but I was more interested in getting back and playing football down the park with my mates. So I wish I would have concentrated on. I always tell that to kids now. I get asked that a lot, what was it like academically, and I could have done a lot better. But I always had this belief that I was going to be a footballer or some kind of sports person, which, listen, I got extremely lucky. Obviously, the percentage that do make it is not very high. So yeah, always obsessed with sport. But I was actually an outfield player. So I wasn't very good, but I was a midfield player. I was on the bench as an outfield player for my local team Barwell when I was 13 and a half. And the goalkeeper got injured. And because I was the only one on the bench, I had to go in goal. And went in goal, made a few saves. The keeper was going to be out with a broken arm. So the manager said, look, can you play in goal for us for the rest of the season? And I did, and I only found out when I made my England debut. After that game, when I first played, my dad put the bet on for me to play for England after that game. But I never knew until 2 days before the actual game when the press got hold of it. So things progressed pretty quickly from there. So from starting in goal, I went to Westfield Wanderers, and then I signed for a team in Leicester called Blaby and Whetstone, who were one of the best teams around. If you managed to sign for them, you were sort of doing quite well. So went there when I was 15, and then started getting noticed in by the county, and then Coventry and Leicester said, look, we want you to come and train with us. So all my family were Leicester fans, but I struck up a good relationship with Zuleikha Chikh at Coventry, who was the goalkeeper there. And I used to go down and train on a Wednesday nights when he was first team keeper. So we struck up a good relationship. And when the time come to pick who to sign for, I went for Coventry, because just simply the fact that Oggy, and I got on so well with him, although some of my family weren't too happy with it because they're obviously Leicester fans. But so yeah, went to Coventry, signed schoolboy forms when I was 16, moved into a lodge. There was 20 lads in this lodge, all staying at night. You can imagine the laugh we had and the tricks we played on each other. But I just become obsessed, and from an early age, I was lucky. I've always said this, that having Steve he's been my mentor. I mean, I still speak to him all the time now, but seeing the way he worked, the way he respected people, the way he was the first out training, the last in every single day. He had respect off other people, and you could tell everybody in the building had tremendous respect. And for him to play in the Premier League, and I think he was 42 his last game, 41 or 42, says everything you need to know about him. So when I signed there was another keeper from Newcastle who was meant to be the next big thing. His name was Steve Watson, and he come with a massive reputation, and everyone thought that he was going to go on and be Coventry's #1. And he come in, and his attitude, I think he admits it, I think it probably had something to do with him moving down from Newcastle. He was homesick, which I totally get. I've had that myself, which we'll talk about later on. But his attitude wasn't as good as mine. He was better than me to start with, but my attitude and my training ability quickly took over, and I got the #1 spot. And again, things progressed really quick. I was training with the first team when I was 17, and I made my debut when I was 18 against Tranmere, actually, against John Achterberg, who was in the opposite goal. So, so things progressed quickly. Then I made my Premier League debut on the Saturday against Tottenham Hotspur. That season went really quick. I mean, we had Magnus Hedman, who was the Sweden #1. And Sweden at the time were a major force in Europe, and Gordon sort of, stuck with me, picked me over Magnus. I played 27, 28 games that season. Unfortunately, we got relegated, but there was a lot of talk off Liverpool, that Liverpool were going to come in and sign us. Now, I've always been a Liverpool fan. My first game was when I was 7. My dad used to get the bus up from Leicestershire. Used to take all day to get up to Anfield, standing in the Kop in them days, but it was the best days ever. And I knew about the move, actually. I can say it now because I've retired, but I knew about the move 6 months before it was going to happen. So I was getting calls off Gary McAllister saying, look, Gerard loves you. We want you, he wants you to sign for Liverpool. Don't sign for anyone else. But obviously you think, well, this is 5-6 months away. A lot of things can happen in that time. They probably won't want us by then. But they rang every few weeks and said, look, we've seen you play again. Macca was giving us, Gerard saying, maybe try and do this in the next game, but you're doing great. He says, we can't wait to get you in. And then obviously the move happened and moved up to Liverpool. Me and my girlfriend, my wife now, moved up. And I think that made it easy. I talked about homesickness before. The one thing that I was really reluctant about was moving home from down in Leicester. Always lived down there, happy, was more than happy at Coventry, but the pull of Liverpool and the size of the club, and obviously being a fan, we moved up, and we still live up here now. I was at Liverpool for 5 years. Things didn't really work out. I had a lot of injuries when I was there. Rafa Benitez brought a different goalie coach in, and the training was totally different to what I was used to. It wasn't as intense. I come off the training pitch sometimes having not worked, and I was going into games thinking, I'm not sharp here, I'm not ready. So, a few times I hired a goalie coach, and we used to go down the local park. Obviously, I had to keep out of the way, but just so I could get some decent training in. But ended up leaving Liverpool, which was tough, but the right decision. He told me that he wanted a foreign goalie coach, which he brought Pepe Reina in, which was not a bad decision, to be fair. Can't argue with that. But I knew I needed to go somewhere that had a British goalie coach and a British manager, because that's what I grew up in. That's what got me to where it was, got me to move to Liverpool. So I went to Wigan. And in 2006, and I think for 2006, for 4 years, that's probably the best I've played during my career. Really enjoyed it. I played 150 games on the spin, really enjoyed it there. In the last 2 years, Roberto Martinez come in again, brought a Spanish goalie coach in, and I just knew straight away that it was going to go back to the way it was. Ended up leaving there and went to Sheffield Wednesday again, kick-started things, restarted things again. But this is when things off the pitch, you know, for 11 years, the routine was the same. Liverpool was 15 minutes from my house. Wigan was 15 minutes. When Lucy come along, I could drop her off at nursery, pick her up after school. You know, my routine was fixed for 11 years. And all of a sudden I was having to commute to Sheffield every day, which people have to do. You know, I was setting off at 5 a.m. to beat the Manchester traffic. It's long hours in the car on my own. And things just started to, you know, to take its toll. And after 3 years, I had to leave Sheffield Wednesday to get back closer to home, thinking that would reverse a cycle sort of thing. But by then I was not in a good place by then, and had to end up having to retire in 2016 and get help for my mental health, which as soon as I asked for it, it was a huge relief off my shoulders. And listen, I still have good and bad days now, but I quickly started to realise I missed the routine. So when I got better, it was around 2018, 19. I quickly realised I missed the routine of something I've always done all my life. Shaun will tell you, you're told when to train, what to eat, what clothes to wear, you know, meetings, everything like that. I started to miss the structure. So I thought, right, what can I do? And I went down to a kick session down with the LFC Foundation, and I spoke to James about this many times, and I felt embarrassed because I thought that's all the Liverpool Foundation did. I thought it was just a few coaching sessions here, a few bits and bobs here and there, and I thought I really want to get involved in this. So I went and met Gemma and Katie, and they told me all the programs they run. And as I said, I was embarrassed because I didn't realise I lived up here in Merseyside for 20 years and didn't realise just what the LFC Foundation do. They run, I think it's 26, 27 programs all over Merseyside: employability, I Will, fitness sessions, coaching, mental health, everything that you can think of they do, and they support obviously the food banks as well. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm doing a lot with the foundation, loving that. I've done a lot with James. We were going into the prisons before, and which was an eye opener, but we've got a lot more obviously to look forward to when we can get back to some kind of normality. And I'm also a part-time coach at Colne FC now in Blackburn. But obviously that's stopped at the minute through COVID. And I've got my own goalkeeper academy as well, just down the road where I live. So I like to keep active, like to do different things. I've been offered routes back into football full time, but it's just not for me at the minute. I love doing what I'm doing with the foundation, and particularly a lot of it around the mental health work. And yeah, just loving working for them now. I'm new to it. I'm still learning. As James will tell you, I'm not great on the computers and filling forms in and stuff like that, but I'm getting used to it, and can't wait for things to get back to some kind of normality so we can get back out and get back into the community. So that's about it. Yeah, that's a long 19, 20 years in about 10 minutes. Brilliant.
Thank you, Chris. Again, inspirational, inspiring, very insightful, very honest as well when you talk about your career. A question I'd probably like to ask you, just on the back of what you've been talking about. You've talked about you're a Leicester City fans as a family, but you went to Coventry, a brave decision. You was at Coventry, love Liverpool. That was an easier decision as such. But then you talked about being at Liverpool, finding it a little bit difficult at times because of injuries and new managers and new training. How do you stay positive in them moments where it is difficult, when you feel that you're in the right job, but it's not particularly going the way that you sort of expect? How do you keep your commitments and positivity up?
Well, that's where your professionalism comes in then. So I've always prided myself on training, working as hard as I possibly can. I tell that to everybody now. You don't have to have the best ability, but you can work harder than anyone else. It doesn't matter what profession you're in. So it was, there was tough times. I mean, the change of training was the biggest one. When Rafa come in and the Spanish goalie coach, it was just completely different to what I'd been brought up on and what had got me where I was. So it was tough, real tough days. And like I said, you try and find other ways. So I hired a coach to go down to the local park to get some training in. So you try and find ways to get through it. But listen, it's football, and rugby's the same. If you're not picked and the manager, doesn't want you, that's just part and parcel of life. You have to move on sometimes. And as a footballer, it's very rare. I mean, we've only seen it with Cara and Stevie, that and a couple of the Man U lads that stay at one club their whole career, which is just incredible. So you're always going to move to different clubs. But I think I was quite lucky. I mean, I was at Liverpool 5 years, Wigan 6 years, 3 years at Sheffield Wednesday. So I've managed to stay at clubs for quite a while, which is good. You see some players that move every couple of years. And I didn't want to do that. So I think that was down to hopefully my attitude and my professionalism that kept me at these clubs for that long.
Brilliant. And I think moving from Liverpool to Wigan as well, where you've gone along to Wigan and you've enjoyed your time there. Sometimes when one door closes, it does open up a door to something else as well. And I think that's really interesting to hear as well. So thank you, Chris. Thank you for joining us and telling the story. I'm sure we've got some more questions for you later on, but thanks very much, Chris.
No worries.
Brilliant. Hiya, Shaun.
Hi, Gary.
So I'm a bit nervous, Shaun, because there's two Wiganers on a call here with lots of people from Liverpool. So I'm just really hopeful that they can understand us both. But right, I know you're extremely busy. We're building towards the World Cup. So thank you for joining us today, Shaun.
No problem.
So very similar to the other two guest speakers, if you could just talk us through your career and how you've ended up coaching a national side like you have.
Yeah, well, my life started off very, very sad, and it ended up very, very good. I was born and bred on a really rough council estate in Wigan called Wesley Hall, and it's one of the worst council estates around here. And I was one of 6 kids. There was 5 boys and 1 girl. And my dad, my father was a big guy who worked in the pit, and I was a shocking kid growing up. I used to get in a lot of trouble. I did a lot of very, very bad things, which I'm embarrassed about as a kid. I didn't go to school. I had weeks off school, and I was like a feral kid, you know, just doing my own thing, and having 6 weeks off school, not going home, and as a 9 and 10, 11-year-old. And my dad's way of dealing with that when I used to get in trouble would be to lock me in a room and just beat me senseless for 20 minutes. And then I would go out and do something else, and I'll get the same again. And I never learned my lesson. You know, and my life was spiraling out of control. I was playing rugby league as a kid from being 5 years old. And it was that what kept me quite focused, you know, and then the school started threatening me with not playing for Wigan schools, which definitely affected me. And then when I got to 15 years old, I did something stupid. I rang in a bomb scare to school. I hadn't been to school for weeks, and I got arrested when I was 15. And then the police took me home, and I got the worst hammering ever off my dad. And I thought he was going to kill me, so I left home. I ran out of my house, and I never went back at 15. I had nowhere to go. I got to the top of my road where I lived in Wesley Hall, and I had one trainer on. I had no t-shirt. I had blood all over my face, and then I realised I had nowhere to go, which was quite sad. I went to my girlfriend's house, who I'm still married to her now, and she's my mother of my kids. I went to my girlfriend's house at 15, and I asked her mum and dad could have stayed there for a night, and I stayed there for 6 years. And that was the best thing what could have happened to me. You know, I walked in her house, and it was it was warm. She had heating on. We never had any heating on in our house, and I had my own bed, and I shared my bed with my 2 brothers. You know, so I never had my own bed. They sat down for a meal. We have never had any food on in our house, and so I remember thinking at the time, this is strange. You know, I thought she was the odd one out. I didn't realise that it was me. I thought what happened to me happened to everybody. And then I thought to myself, you know, you've got a decision to make. All my friends who I mated with were all in trouble with the police. They all went to prison. Some of them are still in prison. And I had a choice of whether to take rugby league seriously, just feel sorry for myself about how I've been brought up and how I've been treated by my dad, and go down that route of just making excuses. And gladly I took that decision that I wanted to do something with my life. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to do something, be the one person in Wesley Hall what did something special. So when I was 16, the year after I signed for my hometown club, Wigan, and there's nothing else in Wigan then. It was just rugby league. It's like a religion. And so I signed for my hometown club, made my debut at 17. in an era when it was like the game was, it's brutal now, but it was more brutal in the 80s. And I got a lot of injuries, you know, the way I played, and I played, you know, quite a few games. We won 15 trophies. It was a really good, successful period, but I had lots of injuries. I broke every bone in my face, and I've had 21 operations on my knee, on one knee, and only one on the other. So I've had some horrendous injuries, and I did 10 years at Wigan at the time, and then I went to Leeds for 3 years. I went to Workington for 1 year. So, you know, 13 years as a career. Then I had to retire. I couldn't run anymore. My right knee was shocking. And then I started coaching as a 31-year-old. I started coaching the kids around the schools in Wigan. And I got this enjoyment of seeing the kids who weren't that good improve slightly, just a little bit. And that improvement helped them to bond with the schoolmates a bit more. And I enjoyed seeing the quiet kids, the kids what weren't that popular, get better and improve a bit, and which made them mix with the peers a bit easier. And I remember just having that feeling where it was very enjoyable for me to see that. And then I started in the real life. I started work as a key account manager for a construction company, tarmac in Manchester, working lots of hours. I started coaching at Wigan Warriors as a coach in the 15s, 16s, 18s, whichever teams they had, I coached. And for 10 years, you know, I was working in Manchester, coaching the kids. I was doing 100 hours a week for 10 years. You know, without a doubt, the toughest period of my life, apart from when I was a kid. And then in 2010, I got the chance to be assistant to an Australian coach called Mike Maguire. So I had to pack my job in, and I was very successful in my job. And I had to take an assistant coach's job at Wigan. And I lost 2/3 of my salary to take that job. And I had 2 kids. I had a mortgage then. And I remember going home to my missus saying, I've been offered this job at Wigan, assistant coach to Mike Maguire. I want to do it, but I'm losing 2/3 of my salary. And so that was a big commitment. But I mean, my wife, who I met when I was 14, I moved in with her when I was 15. She's always been very supportive. And she said, crack on, just do it. She said to me, you will be the head coach one day, won't you? Because that's when you get the good money then. And 2 years later, 2011, I got the head coach job. And then I went on to coach my hometown club, and we had some success. And I loved the enjoyable part was watching. And I still had the same ethos as what I had as a young coach. You know, watching players improve and making them more popular and making sure they were very respectful and make sure that they treated people with respect and they turned up on time, they had the right kit on. And I was very much a coach what looked after the small things, the detail, the standards of culture. And then once you fix that, then you can move on to great things and work on your game more. But the culture and the standards was very poor when I got there, and I knew I needed to improve it. And then in 2018, I handed in my notice. I resigned from my dream job. The club wasn't going the same direction as I wanted. I wanted to do something else, and I went working at Scottish Rugby Union as a high performance coach in Scotland. I did 1 year there, and I was in the process of moving up there and doing I did a review of Scottish Rugby and delivered that to them. It was a very negative review, and they wanted me to fix a lot, and which meant moving up to Scotland. So I was in the process of putting that happening, and then I got offered the job where the head coach of England, and I'm the proudest Wigan lad, the proudest Englishman you could ever wish to meet. To get that job offered to me, and in the World Cup year was immense, was the best feeling you could imagine. So Scotland got binned, and I accepted the England job, and then I got the job, and before I could start coaching, COVID hit, and I've never seen the players, but I'll speak about that later on. So currently the head coach of England, but not very busy at the minute, which is very, very tough.
Thank you, Shaun. And I think I probably speak for everybody who's on the call that the first part of your journey and your story is quite raw to listen to and difficult to listen to. And I think just on behalf of the club and the foundation, I just want to say thank you for doing that and sharing that story. And you made some really interesting points where you talk about you made a choice. You could give excuses or you could achieve, and to have that commitment. It's not an easy choice to make, because it is easier to give the excuses. And I find it really fascinating. I didn't really know this bit. It's a bit of a bigger story, to be honest, where you said you was coaching within the schools and you really enjoy seeing the kids who weren't particularly great at sport actually developing and being allowed sort of welcomed into that sort of culture of having that friendship. And I found that really fascinating, Shaun. You talked about having the job in Manchester for the tarmacking company, and then you made that decision to take the assistant coach's job at Wigan and take a pay cut, a massive pay cut. What sort of drove you to do that? What was it? Was it the fact that you had ultimate belief that you would get that top job eventually? You really believed in yourself, or was it about actually, I knew I could make a difference to some people's lives here just doing that role? So was it a combination, or was it one or the other?
Yeah, to be honest, Gary, it's a bit of both. And I knew I could kill it as a coach without sounding arrogant. I knew my work ethic would get me there, and I knew I could work harder than everybody else. And I knew what really mattered was the standards, what we set, and the culture, which meant a lot to me. If I fixed that at a club where it wasn't that good, we could progress. And I knew it because I was doing the same things with the kids, with the under 18s. I was very, very strict in how we behaved and how we trained, and still enjoying our victories, but we still behave like a professional team. So I knew that if I got the job, I could kill it, and but I also knew that I could make a difference to these young men, to their lives and how they lived, and were they financially better off when they finished playing, and all them sort of things really, really mattered to me. And the players knew I cared. I genuinely cared about them. It wasn't a design thing, which I tried to do it. I genuinely wanted them to have a good laugh when the career finished. So that definitely helped me.
I'm absolutely convinced that every player that you've coached, whether it's a one session or 120 sessions, have had a real positive impact being with you, Shaun, today. You talk about commitments, and you did sort of play it down, your success at Wigan. I'm a Wigan fan, so I appreciate how much you won. So, for example, within your first couple of years, you won the double at Wigan, so you won the two major trophies. How do you have the sort of commitment to carry on then and better that? What sort of drives you to keep going after that, after you've achieved such success?
I was never ever satisfied winning the double. There was the league leaders, which that's winning the Premiership in football. So when we won the double, my first thought was, why can we not win the three? So whilst I was happy with winning trophies, I'm still not satisfied with what I did at Wigan. I won a few things, but I'm still not satisfied. My viewpoint was what I said to the club is I want to win everything for 10 years. That's where I wanted to get us to, and people might think that's unachievable. I don't think that. I wanted to put things in place, but the club didn't think that way. Which I understand. What I was asking was a big commitment. But it was very, very easy for me to get motivated for the year after. I remember winning grand finals, and then the day after, sitting at home and thinking about how we can improve and get better for the year after. So it was a continuous cycle of improvement. What's next? How can we do something better? And that's never gone away.
Thank you very much, Shaun. Thank you again for sharing your story, especially at the beginning bit. It's been really, really good talking to you. We've got a couple more questions for everybody now. So I don't know if James has done it to spotlight everybody. We've got Chris in there as well, James. Brilliant. So we're probably going the same order that we've been in. So the question I want to ask really for everybody is, why is commitment important in your career? Why is commitment important? What comments have you got to make around commitment? So start with you, Zuleikha.
Yeah, I think it's one of the key essential skills that you need if you really want to go into the industry that you want to. So I imagine everyone on the call today is wanting to go and work in the sports industry, and I think it goes back to thinking why you're doing what you're doing. And once you understand your why and your values and your kind of leadership philosophy, you are going to take those opportunities that actually mean something to you, and something that a lot of the call that people on the call today, Shaun and Chris, is about giving back to the community. And I think that's one of the key things that I guess we all share. And once you really understand, why you're doing what you're doing and the impact you want to create, you are going to be, and you are going to only take those select opportunities in your career going forward. And that is going to build, people's confidence in you and that kind of that trust element. So yeah, I think it's also going to, if you've got that commitment, you're more likely to have that resilience as well to excel and really achieve and make your career the best you want it to be. So.
Oh, brilliant. A great answer, thank you. And like I say, really focusing in on that why you're doing it and that end goal. That's a wonderful answer. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, just echoing them words. It's about the passion. Once you know what you want to do and what you're trying to achieve. I've said before, you've got to be the hardest worker. You've got to give it everything you've got in every training session. You can't let up, or whatever job you're doing. Listen, you have good and bad days, but you can still concentrate and still put things to one side and concentrate and do the best you can. But yeah, for any side or any company that wants to be successful, they've got to have employees that give everything they've got and try and push themselves. Just listen to Shaun there, won the league, and then straight away he's thinking, right, how can we get better next year? Not being happy, not standing still, and always pushing forward and trying to improve. Even if you have won, even if you're at the top of your field, you can still get better and still do things to improve your team.
Brilliant. So using that passion to sort of get yourself motivated for the next step. That's a brilliant answer. Thank you, Chris. And Shaun?
Yeah, commitment to me is everything. Which playing a sport like rugby league and football, any sport, you need to absolutely commit to your craft of being better, improving yourself, and even I've got two girls, me, Gary, as you know, and them growing up, I've hammered them over the years about commitment. I think it's a sign of integrity in people. About if you say you're going to do something, you follow it through and you do it, and that's a sign of integrity, and that's you committing to something. So that commitment, playing rugby league, you have to be committed, and that's what I've always said to the players. Commit to every play, commit to training sessions. And it's just a real good sign that a person is buying into what you're trying to deliver.
Thank you, Shaun. So listening to all three of you collectively, it was going to draw out some key words. It's the why, the passion, and the integrity when we look at commitment. And yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. I know that the rest of the team are quite keen to ask some questions, so I don't know who wants to ask a question. James, have you got a couple of questions that you'd like to ask, or Rob?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got some which the team have put together, and then there's been quite a few been coming in the chat function as well from the participants. So we'll hopefully get through them quite quickly. Just staying with you, Shaun, just for now, something which as a team we've been trying to kind of incorporate is that idea of continuous improvement. And I know you've talked about that idea of that Kaizen in the past, and that how those small kind of incremental improvements feed into the bigger picture. So again, how important is it for that continuous improvement and building on what works already? I know you've kind of touched on it already, but yeah, if you could kind of feed into that a little bit more.
I've done lots of I do a lot of keynote speaking now, and I've done lots with sporting organisations, and I went into a big prem into Man City, and they've got lots of writing on the wall, and when I asked about what these sayings could, I'm into sayings what really mean something, but they were just words written down. They didn't really mean anything. And if you'd have come into Wigan when we was there, we had cares, and that was it, and that was make good better. So whatever you do, it was how can we make it better. So we would train, and Chris will understand this. We would train and we'd do eight drills, and straight away we would come off the field, me and the coaches, and we'd go through each individual drill. Did we get what we wanted out of that drill? Yeah, we did. It was a good drill, bad drill, whatever we needed to do. And it was always, how can we make it better and do it again? And everything was analysed. So that detail of improvement and never being happy, never being satisfied, I should say. Being happy is okay, but never being satisfied. You know, I was never one for patting myself on the back and well done after a year. It was always about what's next, and that's what I've drilled into my kids. You know, they are both have very successful jobs, but I never want them to sit there and be satisfied with a salary. I want them always to be thinking, what's the next a ladder climb for me? You know, what's my next job where I can get better and improve my salary? And my wife is the opposite. She wants to keep safe and just be happy with what you've got. And I'm the opposite. And thank God my two girls listen to me and not to my wife, because I want them to be that way. And I've driven that into the lads I've coached, you know, about buying houses and, you know, don't be buying cars, but getting things what's going to make you better and improve you. And that's why them improvements, them small 1% improvements are huge to me and always will be.
I think that's really great advice, Shaun. I think just kind of that plan, do review process and that reflection piece is so important in whatever you do. And for anyone on the call, I think that's something really great to take away that Shaun's just highlighted there. So yeah, thanks for that, Shaun.
I actually had it tattooed on my arm when I was in America and had a few drinks, and I woke up in the morning and I had this tattooed on my wife, went mad, but that means crazy. So that's the one thing what's driven me over the years.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thanks for sharing that, Shaun.
Cheers.
Zuleikha, we've got a question for you from the team, and it's something which you've touched on already, but for anyone on the call who kind of is on their start of their pathway of their career, and how important is networking as part of that? And I think quite a lot of people we speak to, participants are doing a degree in something and feel they have to go in that area. So if they're doing a sport business, they might have to go in sport business. But yeah, how important is networking in relation to that?
Yeah, so for example, my situation, I did a sport business management degree, but my current degree isn't relating to sport. But I have been able to take elements of my degree and apply them to my current role, which is very much around project management, strategy, governance, and that kind of stuff. So I think, you know, we know the graduate job market isn't looking too great. And for anyone, you know, who are in their final years of their degree, I wouldn't say be disheartened if you can't find something that's within the sports industry, you know, upon graduation, because you know, everybody's in a similar position. I'd say take any opportunity, as long as it, you know, aligns with your values, which you think, which you can apply those transferable skills that you've developed on your degree. If you've got involved in any sport clubs, if you've got involved in any volunteering while you've been a student, because an opportunity will come up. Maybe it might just not come up now, and I don't think you should be, you know, disheartened in that way. But the importance of building your network, the sport industry, we all know, they always talk about, you know, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. And I think that's the sport industry is so small. I think everybody knows each other. So if you can try and build those kind of contacts early on, not leave it to your kind of final years, it's going to set you in good stead for your future. And I think it's also about believing in your own journey, because everyone's journey is different. And when for example, you know, just in LFC, you might not have all come from sport related degrees or things. So people are coming to the sports industry with a wealth of different knowledge, and that's what makes the sport industry great, because everyone's coming with those unique experiences. So, you know, I'd say don't be disheartened if you can't enter it straight away, because there is an opportunity. And I think, you know, like Shaun said, and Chris, if you are committed and you do show those professionalism skills, you know, I'm sure something will be open, and, you know, and you'll take the opportunity when it does come. So
yeah, thanks for that. I think it's really great you talk about opportunity and probably understanding opportunity and grasping them, and also making your own opportunities as well. If you don't network, you don't meet people, and then you don't kind of create those opportunities for yourself. So yeah, that's really great advice. Thanks for that, Zuleikha. Chris. So I've got one question for you from the team, and then we're going to kind of hopefully run through a couple of questions in the chat. We talk about routine. How important is it for routine to kind of be transferred to any job role? And you talked about how it was really important in your career. And yeah, what advice would you give someone in terms of routine?
It just gives you, I mean, through my career, I mean, then afterwards, it gives you a purpose then. So it's so easy to, I mean, when I retired, and I know a lot of lads when they retire, it's all holidays and playing golf and all that, but you miss the routine eventually. You miss having a purpose to get up in the mornings. And it's vital for me, particularly with the mental health side of things as well. If I don't have a routine, if I don't know what I'm doing the next day, then I can sometimes not panic, but get a little bit flustered. So I need to be knowing what I'm doing every day, not thinking too far ahead, because obviously during these times, in the minute we're in, it's so unpredictable and nobody knows what's going to happen yet. But I try and take each day as it comes, plan the day ahead the night before, and get into routine. Walking's a massive part of it, involved with that charity at the minute, Walking's Grill, which we do for mental health and for the NHS. So always have to get my walks in every day. But yeah, I know exactly what I need to do, and having that routine, no matter what you do, is vital for a lot of people during these times, particularly. I know it's difficult at these times, but your normal routine's out the window. But so you can still do things at home. Get up, go for a walk outside. Make a cup of tea, call friends. Try and keep as active as you can during these difficult times.
Yeah, I think what you just touched upon there is that routine can be many things. It can be communication, it can be organisation, it can be accumulation skills within the routine, which is really important, and that can be transferred to all job roles, like you said there, Chris. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I'm really wary of time at the moment. So we'll try and run through a few of these questions. So there's one, we'll start with Shaun again, and it's how does coaching England differ from coaching Wigan?
At the minute, everything's on Zoom. So I started very early this morning with the players in Australia. So I'm doing every individual play, and I've done it all the way through lockdown. It's going through footage and showing the players exactly what it needs to be an England player. And when I joined England, they had this, and Chris will understand this, I'm sure. They had this England heartbeat dossier about our England player, and it looked great to a board, presented to a board. But the fact is, there was things in there what we just didn't do. It just wasn't right. So I wanted to get rid of that and start again. And we watched thousands of games, me and my staff, and we've just picked some real simple thing, what win test matches, and that's what we delivered to the players. So we've really made it simple on what the players need to do. It's very hard to do, but it's very, very simple to understand, for them to understand what they need to deliver in games. So I'm coaching the best players in our country, so it's very, very enjoyable and very easy to me to have these Zoom chats, and hopefully next month we'll be together on the field and we can train properly, COVID permitting. But it's been very, very difficult not getting the players together. We had an Ashes series in October last year, what got cancelled obviously because of COVID, and so I've got the World Cup to look forward to this October, and fingers crossed that happens. But I'm just very, very frustrated at the minute that I want to be on the field, I want to be coaching. I need the stress of games, and I need to feel that I'm coaching into a game where we have to win. My job relies on it. I miss that stress, believe it or not, and I'd give anything to be coaching in the game at the minute.
That's that answer there, Shaun, and yeah, I think you've touched upon it there, that the landscape has been very different for a while, and you probably have to adapt in terms of all the Zoom calls, but yeah, hopefully it will return sooner rather than later. Yeah, that. So next one we've got is for Chris. Yeah, it's a long one, so just bear with me. So we've got an individual who is a goalkeeper who suffers from anxiety and has autism. Only ever been a Sunday League goalkeeper, but has a kind of really overly ambitious belief that he'll be spotted by a scout one day. Struggled with mental health in the past and put pressure on himself for years. have you got any advice for him?
Yeah, really sorry to hear that. When I suffer with anxiety, there's 3 things I do now. Go out walking, exercise is vital. You're doing that anyway because you're playing football. Talking is a huge one. And also, if I start feeling anxious or sweaty palms, I'll lie back and I'll put sounds of the sea on, so like waves crashing and stuff, and try and focus purely on that noise. And that's what helps me to relax and to not get as anxious as I know I can do. If I don't do these things, it's called coping mechanisms, and that's what I learned when I went away to a rehabilitation centre. You learn to cope with these things because they're going to happen. You're probably going to, I know I'll probably suffer for the rest of my life with mental health, but you don't have to suffer as bad. You can come up with coping mechanisms. As I said, mine's walking, listening to calming music and talking to people. But with regards to the scouting thing, don't worry about anything like that. There's always scouts at every game. Shaun will tell you that. They're at every match. So, if you're doing well enough, you'll get spotted. But don't put extra pressure on yourself thinking, oh, I hope there's a scout here today, or there might not be. Just play your game, enjoy yourself as best as you can. And that's the one thing that I wish, I'd done more, enjoyed it more over the course of my career. But yeah, and I wish you all the best of luck. And if there's anything we can do at the foundation, just make sure you get in contact.
Thanks for that advice, Chris. Yeah, really appreciate that. In terms of the questions in the chat, we'll obviously not be able to get through all of them, but we'll try and get back in touch with you in regards to these questions. And if we can pass them over to Chris, Shaun, or Zuleikha, I'm sure we can try and get them sorted for you as well. So last question here before I pass over to Gary. Zuleikha, what is your advice to people who can't currently access university?
I'd say have a look at other opportunities. University isn't for everyone. There's apprenticeships, might want to start in a full-time job. I know, people working in the sport industry currently, and they haven't gone to university. So it's very, very accessible, obviously, the sport industry. You don't always need the qualifications, and that's where those people who have made it into the sport industry, they've actually got involved in the volunteering and really built on the networking side, and remained committed, remained passionate, and been ambitious in the pursuit of like having a career in the football industry in this case. So I wouldn't say you have to follow the traditional route. Don't be thinking. People are looking at different ways in which they can access education. There's a number of online courses that you can do, for example through LinkedIn, and I think it's just about educating yourself and thinking around, is university the right option, and if not, what other options are out there, and try and explore those.
Thanks for that, I really appreciate it. Gary, over to you now.
James, sorry, I lost you a little bit then, James. So it's probably time to start wrapping up now and say goodbye. I think what I'd like to say on behalf of everybody on the call today, thank you so much for giving up your time, but more than that, actually sharing your journeys in such an honest way, an inspirational way. It's been really, really brilliant to listen to. Want to wish you all the very best of your careers going forward. We're going to be big supporters, and I think the World Cup's coming to Anfield, if that's right, Shaun. So maybe we could get a foundation trip to Anfield for that to support.
Yes, it is.
Well, we'll try and get as many people down as possible to get to cheer on the boys for that one in October. Well, yeah, thank you very much for turning up, people, and taking part today. It's been absolutely impressive and inspirational. Just before we say goodbye, just on the screen now is a QR code for a workshop that we're doing tomorrow. So if you want to sort of discuss the themes which have come into today's call, you can attend this workshop. It's very informal. It's very interactive. There's a lot of discussion within the workshop, and we've also got a couple of prizes that we might give away to 1 or 2 people who contribute. So all you need to do is get your camera open and scan that, and that will take you directly to the link for the workshop tomorrow. And just while you do that, the next slide, which will be coming up in a second, will be our safeguarding slide. If there's any issues, any concerns, or you feel that you need to speak to anybody, this number is available 24 hours a day for you to call, so you can speak to somebody at the foundation who can help you. So once again, thank you for everybody for joining us today, and thank you to our guests. Take care and look after yourselves. Goodbye.
Thank you.